Strategic Dream: Putting the Power of Your Subconscious Mind to Work by Joseph Murphy. Reach new levels of career success using the power of your subconscious mind. Chapter 10: Breaking Bad Habits. No matter what bad habits you may have formed or what weaknesses you wish to overcome, you will find the remedy for it within yourself. Whether the habit be a vicious one or some foolish little thing that hinders you in some way, you can get rid of it. You can turn your weaknesses into strength. You can conquer all the enemies of your success and happiness by bringing your divinity, the sublime power that it latents in the great within you, to your aid. All people are creatures of habit. We tend to do certain things in a certain way whenever we are faced by them. A habit can be defined as an addiction, custom, mannerism, or nature. Some habits or rituals are quite useful. They establish a tradition or a routine, thereby providing a measure of order, efficiency, and meaning to a life. Alas, some habits can also lock you into inflexible mind body patterns and inhibit your openness to change. Habits are a way of life, patterns we follow because we are accustomed to following them. Some habits are good, others bad. The habits we develop in performing our jobs often spell the difference between mediocrity and excellent performance. In this chapter, we will examine how habits are developed and how we can overcome bad habits, replace them with good habits, and generally build up patterns of behavior that will lead us to success. Building good habits. The dominant creative positive character becomes so by the constant repetition of positive acts and creative thoughts until such brain processes have become habitual. We may build up a forceful or a weak character according to our habits of thought. If we hold a self confident, self assertive, decisive mental attitude, we will become strong and creative. If we harbor the doubtful, the hesitating, the uncertain, the distrustful, the self efficiency, self depreciating, self denunciating thought, we will become negative and ineffectual. It is just a question of which way you set your brain by habitual thinking. We hear a great deal about luck and circumstances affecting our success or lack of it in our career. Sure, they may play some part, but more often it is the habits we develop and apply that determine the direction we take. We do not have to choose to go in the wrong direction. All we have to do is follow our inclination, our passion, our normal appetite, our mental interior, and habits will do the rest. Habit never rests, awake or asleep. It is constantly winding its invisible cords about our thoughts, our character. Whether it is for our weal or our woe, habits is gradually taking charge of us. What we do voluntarily today, we shall do more easily tomorrow and with greater facility the next day. The best way to develop good habits is, instead of trying to root out a defect or a vicious quality directly, cultivate the opposite quality. Persist in this, and the other will gradually die. Kill the negative by cultivating the positive. The craving for something higher and better is best possible antidote or remedy for the lower tendencies which one wishes to get rid of. When the general habit of always aspiring, moving upwards, and climbing to something higher and better is formed, the undesirable qualities and habits will fade away. They will die from lack of nourishment. Breaking bad habits. It is not an easy matter to overcome a habit long standing, but the fact that it can be done at any age has been proved by thousands of men and women who conquered habits that had almost destroyed their careers and might have wrecked their lives. The problem with most people in trying to break away from bad habits or to create good ones is they do not realize their latent strengths and do not make a loud enough call upon their higher, more potent selves. They do not have exert the power of their subconscious mind, the great lever that God has given us to enable us to lift ourselves to a godlike state. The resolutions are weak, wishy washy. They do not put vim enough, grit enough into them. One excellent way to kill a bad habit is to strangle it by cutting off food that nourished it. Don't handle a bad habit tenderly, or try to break it off little by little. Make your attack on the enemy boldly and confidently. Follow the method suggested by Professor William James to free ourselves from the power of an old habit and to form a new one. We must take care, he said, to wrench ourselves from the old habit by as strong and decided initiative as possible. We must accumulate all the possible circumstances that shall reinforce the right motive. We must put ourselves assiduously in positions that encourage the new way. We must make engagements incompatible with the old. We must develop our resolution with every aid we know. The only way to quit is to quit and to firmly resolve that you will have nothing to do with the things that is hurting you. If you seriously commit yourself to the resolution and burn the bridges behind you, this very commitment will call you to aid mighty hidden resource of those whose very existence you were, perhaps ignorant. But as long as you leave open way of retreat and think that perhaps when the temptation of the old habit becomes too strong, you will indulge just a little. You weaken your chances of mastery. This is not easy to do on the job, where many of the bad habits have been ingrained in the way you deal with problems. Often you have been used techniques successfully so often that you assume they will always work. They become your habitual way of doing the job. But circumstances change and what worked in the past no longer is an effective. Many people stubbornly stick to their habits. It will work because it always has worked. Smart people recognize and accept that habitual approach is not the best way of dealing with problems. Break away from old habits and seek new approaches. When a longtime professor of business administration was retained by a national retail chain store firm to set up and administer a training program for store managers, he planned training sessions using the same technique he had been successful using at the university. It didn't take him long to realize that he just wasn't getting through to the trainees. After a few sessions, the professor and the company's training director discussed his lack of progress. The training director said, "Those men and women are active people and are easily bored by lectures." But the professor responded, "Lecturing is the way I teach. It's the only way to cover all the material they need to know in the allotted time. It's always worked well. They will get used to it." The training director disagreed. "You have to involve them more in the process. The teaching style used in college will not work here." The professor thought long and hard about this. He had developed what he considered an interesting, sometimes even entertaining, lecture style on which he had been frequently complimented. To change his style was like breaking a habit with which he has very comfortable. He resolved to try a new approach. He would hold back, even though he knew it would be hard to resist lecturing and make the class more participative. The subject of the next session was the hiring process. Instead of giving the lecture he had prepared, he had started by asking the store managers what problems they faced in attracting and selecting new employees. One after another, the trainees told about their method, their success and failures, and their concerns in this area. The, pro- the professor was tempted to give long academic responses, but he remembered his resolution to let the trainees become involved. To his great delight, one manager after another told of his and her experiences, often helping other managers by sharing success and cautioning about problems that arose. The professor supplemented their store with brief comments and recaps. By the end of the session, much of what he had intended to lecture on had been covered in this discussion, and the class left excited and looking forward to the next session. The professor reported to the training director that it was the hardest thing he had ever had to do, to keep from dominating the class with his own ideas. But because he did, both he and the trainee had a successful and rewarding meeting. Procrastination. One of the most common bad habits that occur in the workplace is procrastination. Tomorrow, tomorrow, not today, all the lazy people say. You don't have to be lazy to procrastinate. Most people procrastinate. We tend to put off until the last possible minute things we do not like to do or things we are afraid to do. There are many reasons we are procrastinated. We may not like what we have to do. We may prefer to do a different task, but often we procrastinate because we are afraid we will fail. Everywhere we see splendid ability tied up and compelled to do mediocre work because of the suppressing, discouraging influence of fear. On every hand, there are competent people whose efforts are nullified and whose ability to achieve is practically ruined by the development of this monster, which will in time make the most decided person irresolute, the able's timid and inefficient. There is no moment like the present. There is no moment at all. No instant forced in energy, but in the present, the energy wasted in postponing today's duties until tomorrow would often do the work. How much harder and disagreeable. Two, it's to do work that has been put off. Work that could have been done at the time with pleasure or neat enthusiasm because drudgery after it has been delayed for days or weeks. Promptness takes the drudgery of what occupation putting off usually means leaving off, and going to do becomes going undone. Doing a deed is like sowing a seed. If it is not done in just the right time, it will be a forever out of season. The summer of eternity will not be long enough to bring maturity or fruit of a delayed action. People who always act promptly, even if they make occasional mistakes, will succeed when procrastinators, even if they have the better judgment, will fail. Here are some suggestions for overcoming procrastination. Procrastination is not just failing to meet deadlines, it is failing to get started. So get going. Remember, Ben Franklin's adage, don't put off until tomorrow what we can't be done today. Put aside the fear of doing something new or different. Delve into the subject and take action. When faced with a complex project, don't let it overwhelm you. Break it into manageable components, set a time schedule for each component. Do the things you fear most and dislike most when you are freshest and most energetic. Build an internal completion points. Motivating yourself to begin a project that won't come to fruition until a long time in the future can be difficult. By setting and determining completion dates for each stage of the project, you get the sense of gratification seeing progress made as you go along. Make an arbitrary start. If you do not know how to begin in a difficult project, rather than keep mulling over, make a preliminary assumption and start working. The work itself will stimulate your brain. If it doesn't work out, you can start again. It's better to take an active role than to keep stalling on beginning the project. When working on a special project that is over and above the regular work you do, it is tempting to put it off until I have some free time. Set aside a special time each day to work on it. Give yourself a reward when you have completed a task on the time that you have usually put off doing. Acknowledge your weaknesses. If you have some vicious habits keeping you back, impeding success on your job, you will be greatly strengthened in your power to overcome it by constantly saying to yourself, I know this thing, calling it by name, is holding me back. I'm not efficient as I should be. I do not think as clearly. I cannot control my mind so well as I could were I not hampered by this weakness. I despise those habits which will keep me back and which will tend to make me failure. I know that useless I change this habit, it will be blind me more strongly to it and make my chance of breaking away much less. Just talk to yourself in this way whenever you are alone, and you will be surprised to see how quickly the audible suggestion will weaken the grip of this habit. In a short time, you will self-talk will strengthen your commitment that you will be able to entirely eradicate your weakness. Wally L was one of those bosses who felt he had to be in total control of his department. He supervised 12 technicians whose work, although they were proficient, Wally checked and rechecked after, and often during each assignment, because turnover in his department was well above that of other units. His boss called him in to discuss this. Wally, our exit interviews brought out that the people leaving your department all had the same complaint. They resented you micromanaging this work. You hired good people. You have to let them do their job. But, Wally replied, I am responsible for the work of my department. If I don't keep on top of them, I'm not doing my job. Wally, good people must be allowed to do their work without somebody looking over their shoulders all the time. I am responsible for your work, but I am not watching every move you make because I trust you. You have to trust the people who work for you. But if I let them alone, I won't catch errors in the time to correct them, or maybe not at all. There are other ways of keeping control without micromanaging. There are proven techniques on how to delegate work efficiently, learn and apply them. Wally thought he explained several of the techniques, which are discussed in the details in chapter 11 of this book. Wally thought long and hard about this. He was afraid to give up his tight control, but he knew it had to be done. It was hard for Wally to keep from micromanaging his people when temptation to look over the technician's shoulder came. He said to himself, don't do it. You have to trust him. In time, he built up the trust he needed in each worker and recognized that although errors occurred from time to time, they were easily detected by the technician at checkpoints or corrected. Work became easier for Wally and the tension in his department lessened. Turnover ceased and Wally had time to expand the work he could do. Emily R. was always in a rush. Even as a schoolgirl, she hurried through her class work and home assignments, anxious to finish them and to get out and play. When she obtained her first job as a data entry clerk, she took the same approach. She was always the first to finish an assignment, but it was frequently filled with errors and had to be redone. Her supervisor cautioned her to slow down and be more careful, but her old school time practice could not be broken. After a while, her boss put her on probation. She said, Emily, you are a bright person, but your habits are putting speed ahead of accuracy. You will keep you from ever doing good work. You must break that habit. If you do not improve, we will have to let you go. She suggested that in her next assignment, Emily concentrate on accuracy and not think at all about the time. Emily was shaken up. She liked the job, but prided herself on her speed. She resolved to try to break that habit. On the next assignment, she slowed down for a while, but after a short time began to speed up again. She stopped suddenly, checked the work she had completed, and noted that the first part was totally accurate, but there was several errors in the next part where she had gone faster. She corrected the errors and continued the work. She said to herself, "The bad habit is placing me at great disadvantage of my job. It is holding me to ridicule and unfavorable comparison with others. I know that I have more ability than many of those about me who are accomplishing a great deal more. Now I am going to conquer this thing that is destroying my prospects. I am going to get freedom from this urge to put speed before accuracy, no matter how hard it may be." It took Emily several weeks to finally program her subconscious mind to accept her resolution to minimize speed and concentrate on accuracy, resulting in her becoming one of the top producers in her department. Don't dodge the truth. Acknowledge your bad habits. Do not dodge the issue. You cannot overcome a bad habit if you refuse to admit it. You are living in a psychological prison of your own making. You are bound by the beliefs, opinions, training, and environmental influences. Like most people, you are a creature of habit. You are conditioned to react the way you do. You can ingrain the idea of improving your work habits into your mentality so that it reaches your subconscious depths. At the point, you will achieve a new understanding of how your mind works. You will discover within yourself the infinite resources to back up your statement and prove truth to yourself. If you have a need desire to free yourself from the detriments to your capabilities, you are already 51% healed. When your desire to give up the bad habit is greater than you need to continue it, you will be amazed to discover that overcoming it is but a step away. Whatever thought you anchor the mind upon, the mind magnifies. Engage the mind on the concept of success and achievement. Keep it focused on the new direction of attention. In doing so, you generate feelings that gradually pervade the concept of success and achievement. Whatever idea you emotionalize in this way is accepted by the subconscious and brought to pass. Sum and substance. It is never easy to break a bad habit, but it can be done. Here are 10 suggestions that should help you free yourself from patterns of behavior and have kept you from being the man or woman you truly want to be. 1. Choose the habit you wish to change. Target a habit that is not only a disturbing element in your life, but one which holds you back from achieving your goal. Select a self-defeating pattern which you can focus your discontent on and turn around constructively. 2. Assess the problem. After choosing a target habit, identify what you actually do and what really want to do. Break a big problem into manageable bite-sized pieces. 3. Establish a challenging and achievable goal and time frame. The goal should be challenging yet obtainable. If you properly and gradually stretch your horizon in actions, you should reach your desired objectives. 4. Prepare to grieve the loss of the habit. Both before you start and or during your habit changing program, don't be surprised if you experience a poignant, if not profound, sense of loss. You may miss the satisfaction of finding mistakes when you micromanage or high you may get by finishing a project first, even if most accurately. But in time, your subconscious mind will adjust and you will no longer feel that loss. 5. Consult with a coach or counselor. Seek the experience and wisdom of a friend and mentor or a professional counselor to act as your coach in this startup phase. He or she will help you set goals, provide tips and support for managing the uncomfortable emotions that are likely to surface, and give you suggestions and encouragements when you fall behind. 6. Take action. Do it. Take the first step. You'll quickly get feedback regarding what you can and can't handle. Along with available resources, you'll definitely glean insight regarding vital survival knowledge, skills, and critical support. 7. Join with groups of others who wish to break the same bad habits and develop a new habit. When several people with the same goal interact, there is an added dimension to the support each gives to another member of the group. Look into such groups as Alcoholic Anonymous, geared to help with specific situations. 8. Do it systematically. Behavior modification is an evolutionary process. It often comes with three distinct phases. 1. Freeing yourself from the old pattern. 2. Making the change. And 3. Mastering the new pattern. The first phase involves acknowledging the self defeating pattern and starting to let go. The second phase tries to incorporate new skills, tools, resources, and positive activities. If the first step is depressing, the middle phase can be anxiety provoking as you awkwardly apply new insights. The final phase occurs when trial and error, along with practice, lead to the mastery of the new habit. The change starts feeling more natural. 9. Don't give up. One of the seductive traps about behavior modification is that sometimes there is a rapid learning at the beginning of the process, and then you hit a plateau. Don't give up. Don't get overly optimistic after quick victories or too deflated with some setbacks. It's nature's way to ebb and flow, and to get knocked down and then get up and moving again. Success is setting up one more time than we fall down, being courageous one more time than we are fearful, begin trusting one more time that we are anxious. 10. Pursue the path. Pursuing the path you take, overcoming hurdles and obstacles along the way, is an integral part of the learning process. Breaking, making, and mastering a deep seated interactive behavior learning chain is a lifetime process. Turning your dream into a strategic dream. Dream big. Peace.